Hello, I'm William Gallagher, and this is 58 Keys, which, as ever, as always, is for writers like you and me, who use New Write on Macs, on iPhones, and particularly today, actually, iPads, just by chance. And especially all of this now that macOS Tahoe, iOS 26 and iPadOS 26 are officially out at last. Do subscribe because we have so much to talk about, or actually patronise me. I know that's not the right word, but I just can't resist it. And we can actually talk. This time, you and I we're going to go talking about one single thing that has huge impact. What each of these new operating systems, iOS 26 and the rest, have brought, amongst actually quite a lot of other things, is in particular a series of new shortcuts actions to do with Apple Intelligence. And one of them is excellent. I haven't really looked at the rest. The rest of them, they're all about Apple's writing tools. And you're a writer. I'm a writer. We do not need Apple to help us write anything. But, shortcuts was already useful, right? It's already useful to you and me across the Mac, the iPhone, and the iPad, all of them. But one extra action that's been introduced now opens up this huge amount more. I should say there's already a 58 Keys guide to shortcuts for writers in general, and I've linked to it below, but actually, no, skip that. Watch this, because this is about showing you the one new shortcut action, but in doing that, you will see everything about how to build and how to run any shortcuts, just all right here. In particular, you'll see how to exploit this new action called Use Model. You'll see what that means, and you'll see what it does. But let me tell you right now, I'm going to show you every single step of making a shortcut that takes an audio file of me rambling on and just planning out things, trying to get some ideas down, and spits out a coherent list of from the mess in my head, really. Right, opened up shortcuts, create a new one. I'm going to give it a name. In fact, I'm just going to call it under 19. Maybe we'll use a keyboard. I would like to call this, please. Is that even remotely correct? Yes, and now get rid of that keyboard. Gone. That keyboard's going to come back, so let me get rid of that completely. Here, hide keyboard. Okay, don't know where current date come from because my finger tapped on that. Right, so here we have the blank canvas for it. Here we have a list of things down the side. This is a list of actions, and there's so many of them. Under each of these apps, there are different categories of it goes on and on and on. And also importantly, the shortcut actions you have depend on the apps you've got. I'm only going to use the ones that are available from Apple so that you definitely have them. But also, I'm not going to use any of these yet. I'm going to go up here first. This thing here, I was going to say blob. This icon means actions. This one, the I, means, I for information, but information about the shortcut as a whole, little bits to do with it. The one I want is this show in share sheet. I know I want that because doing that gives me this. This means that this particular shortcut will wait to receive things. Later on, I'm going to be in voice memos and I will have recorded babbling on about something. I then need to be able to share it from voice memos into this specific shortcut, and this is the thing that says, all right then, bring it on. Actually, it's saying bring on a lot of things, apps and 18 more from share sheet. I know I don't want that. Let me just tap in that. All of these various things that any shortcut can receive. Well, I know I don't want them. If I clear all of them, I presume I want media. I imagine it's files, but it's not going to be URLs. It's not going to be locations. So just that. Receive media and files from share sheet. Now back to actions for it. Even though I'm showing this to you about Apple Intelligence and the new actions from it, most of these actions are not Apple Intelligence, starting with this one, transcribe audio. Notice, by the way, if you haven't seen before, I just tapped and that dragged, I tapped and that popped the next action I wanted to the bottom. I could just drag things around if I want, but I don't. This is the thing I want. I want to receive a file into the shortcut and then transcribe it. And you notice it says transcribe blank, really. If I just tap on that once, it lets me select a file. That's not what we want. What that would do is every time you run the shortcut, select that same file. I don't want that at all. So instead, press and hold. Oops. And we choose shortcut input. Now, anything that comes into this shortcut gets transcribed into text. This is finally where we start using use model. Now, you notice this is in 3 sections here, but it's actually one thing. Let me just tap it to go on there. You notice just before I did that, actually, let me bring it up again just so to compare them. This shows 3 options here. The same 3 options are here under this list. Doesn't matter what you select there, you can change it later there, and including one where you can say, well, which one do you want every time you run? This is important, though, what this is, and I'm going to start actually with ChatGPT because I've been criticized about this. In previous 58 keys, the same thing came up, and I said that doing it this way, doing this sort of thing, was a way to use ChatGPT privately. And I was mocked by someone, I was going to say who didn't listen to the end of the sentence, but they didn't even listen to the start of the sentence, because the start of the sentence was, this is a private way to use ChatGPT. And they went off on one about how ChatGPT isn't private, all the stuff that's true, but not this way. You can do you could do everything I'm showing you here using the ChatGPT app or ChatGPT online, a bit more fiddly. You go through the steps manually instead of having a shortcut race through them for you, but you could do it. The thing is, if you did that, if you went directly to ChatGPT, well, you're kind of handing over the goods a little bit. I'm using this for personal planning purposes, and I would be surrendering that to ChatGPT. It would use it for training purposes. It would keep the data, and it would also do all that stuff of keeping details of what device it had come from. It would be doing that kind of fingerprinting of me to potentially sell to advertisers and all that hinky stuff. Here, although this is ChatGPT, you notice it's not headed ChatGPT, it's headed extension. At some point, there are going to be loads of these. Google's Gemini looks to be the next one. It's taken a long time to come. Extension means this. It will go to ChatGPT, what we ask it to, but it goes via Apple Intelligence. And Apple has a deal with ChatGPT whereby none of your data is shared. It's anonymized before it gets there, and ChatGPT is not allowed to keep even your prompt for training purposes. This means trusting companies, and it's like, isn't it a toss-up? Do you trust Apple more than OpenAI, the makers of ChatGPT? Well, actually, yes. In this case, absolutely do I trust Apple more, because up to now, ChatGPT has ripped off everything on the internet you can think of. It's all the horrible stuff that AI tools, LLMs have done to our work as writers, and it's not going to stop. So, yeah, I'm not a fan in that sense. Apple, on the other hand, has kind of staked a reputation on privacy. I mean, 20 years now, it's been battering on about privacy. Before anybody else even really cared about it, Apple was going on and on about privacy is at the heart of what we do. And also, because it's Apple, I don't mean you automatically believe what it says about privacy, but Apple cannot do anything without being slammed for it really badly. And in this case, if privacy were broken, end of the world type stuff headlines, it would be excruciating for Apple to do this. And I think they protect themselves from excruciating. Plus there's this, like a technical thing. I haven't tested this. I don't know that it has been, but I believe it has, and definitely it can. Apple has guaranteed that outside experts can come in and check its servers and see that it really is doing what it says about privacy for this. I mean, so experts can just randomly phone up Apple Park or wherever it is and say, we're coming in today. And I'm sure Apple will hoover or something, clean up a bit, tidy away, put away the sandwiches, but the data will be there. Experts can prove it. So I trust Apple Intelligence in this case. Therefore, I trust ChatGPT going through it. But you do have other options if you don't agree. I mean, really, you should. It's just technically correct. But if you I get twitchy about ChatGPT. If you're the same, there are these other 2 options. There's cloud and there is on-device. Of those 2, on-device means it's Apple Intelligence, but it's Apple Intelligence on this iPad or on your Mac or on your iPhone. It doesn't leave the device. Fine, but that's a kind of a small, crammed in version of Apple Intelligence. Might do what you want, might not. And then there's Cloud. Cloud is full on, full strength, Apple Intelligence, everything they've got, based in Apple Park or servers around the world. What you ask it to do leaves your device, it goes to their cloud servers do their doings, send you back the information. Apple insists that this is private all the way, and it does appear to be, but it does leave your device, so you might want to choose between them. The thing is, whenever you're doing anything like this, try it out with all three, and you will find different results. And unfortunately, at the moment, it seems to me that ChatGPT gives the best one of the right, so let's use ChatGPT via Apple Intelligence. So the prompt says transcribe audio. Well, let's tell it what to do something. Actually, I need that keyboard back now. Let's just go to the start of this, and I'm going to, organize, and then let's go past that. I want it to take that text and then organize it, and organize it into a, let's say, useful. I'm glad that auto-corrected that. I don't like this word, but I think it does what I need. Actionable list. And then there's this. Do not comment. What is it about the makers of AI, people, that they really, really need affirmation? Because if you do not put in do not comment, it's going to go, what a great audio file, William. What a fantastic thing. You're really just enough already. Do the job. Do not comment. Okay. Now, what this will do so far is it will receive an audio file that I sent to it. It will transcribe it. And then using ChatGPT, it'll make my babbling into some sort of coherent list. And then nothing else. But we need to have it do something else. We need to be able to get that. And there are lots of things you could do here. I've been trying out versions of this that send it straight into an app like Omni Outliner. Fine. I felt like what it was sending was too much. I was going to edit it before I put it into Omni Outliner or OmniFocus or whatever app I wanted it to. So I found, just for me, for the moment, if I do this, copy to clipboard, and I'll drag this so you can see you can drag there. Copy the response to clipboard, and actually we're kind of done. Except, that keyboard's really starting to irritate me. Let me get rid of that keyboard again. Depending on what file you send, depending on what you transcribe, if you talk for an hour, it's going to take longer to do this than 2 seconds of your shopping list. I need to know when it's finished. Let's see, show. There it is, I can see it. Show notification. By the way, just notice if I do that again, you notice I have 2 show notifications. That's from a separate shortcuts app called Toolbox, which I bought ages ago and haven't actually got around to using very much. I do find it very confusing when you end up with multiple things, but you can tap the I button and get an idea of what they are. That's exactly the same, isn't it? And you can hopefully go by the icons. I recognize that's Toolbox Pro. I wouldn't recognize that was like Apple's own, but you try it and then you see. And as long as you've got the action, as long as you've got Toolbox Pro or whatever app it is that's giving you those actions, well, then you're fine. What do you care? It's just when you're trying to send it to somebody else, or you're trying to use the same shortcut on, say, the Mac and the iPad, and you haven't got that app on both, or there isn't an equivalent app on the both, and all that stuff. Receive the audio file, transcribe it, turn it into an actionable, coherent list, copy it to the clipboard, and show us that everything is done. Let's get out of this. Go into voice memos. Here's one I recorded earlier. Ideas. This is not really Ideas 58 Keys episodes, but it's what was on my mind. I need to just move that out of the way. Hang on a second. Oops. Here's a list of shortcuts I've got that do it. I didn't notice that it called itself Planner 1. Let's see what happens. What's wrong? That is not what I asked for, but let's see what happens if I go to drafts and paste. Okay, well, that is what I asked for, I suppose. But it's commented, hasn't it? I mean, it hasn't gone, oh, look, here's a wonderful outline. But, all right, so this is the kind of thing where I don't want any of this stuff at the end. And actually, in the versions I've been doing before, I haven't had it. I must have said very don't comment or something like that. But you get the idea of it. Here is, this could be a way that I could talk to you about the things we're talking about. It isn't, but it could be. And that's all I need from this. I need a start sometimes. There are various things going on with deadlines and stuff, and I'd never ask AI to sort out my deadlines, but I kind of, when things are on your mind, it's stuff like, well, I've got to do this and I've got to do that and stuff. I would babble away about all of this stuff, and then it would come out with this little list, and somehow just seeing it written in front of me, I can think, well, yeah, maybe actually those two things do go together. Maybe I can do those at the same time. It doesn't help me with priority, doesn't help me with dates or urgency, but there's something about getting things out of your head and onto the screen or onto the paper to examine that is worthwhile for all of this. Yeah, I did multiple versions of this, and I have got it working better than that before. I think that's the prime version. But what I've done is I've gone on and told it to create more bulletin point versions. I've told it to rework the response into a task paper format list. Task paper is a to-do format that a lot of apps like my beloved OmniFocus can read. And actually, I've tried that out, and I'm continuing to try out quite a lot of different things in that shortcut, but after the bits you've seen. So after copy to clipboard and notification, I've had it create and save a file, or I've had it send a response over to the app Omni Outliner that I use. And this is a thing with all shortcuts. Once you've got one working, you've got it doing the thing you want or something you want, you make a safety copy and then you fiddle away more, adding to it and expanding it, including in this case, my fiddling at the start as well as at the end. You saw that this shortcut needs you to send an audio file from, for example, voice memos. Anything will do, but something like that. And then the shortcut does its doings. There shouldn't really be a reason why you couldn't just record your audio into this very same shortcut. And in fact, I did that. I did that a lot. But eventually, I took all of that bit out again. And partly because actually it turns out it was so fiddly, it would have made this long video even longer. But really, mostly because it didn't work. A shortcut that you made on, say, the iPad ought to work immediately. It's available immediately on the iPad, the iPhone, and the Mac. It's there, but it doesn't always work in all of these places. And sometimes it's just that there are things shortcuts can't do on every device. On the iPhone, for example, instead of that thing of having a notification pop up to tell me the shortcut was finished, you could have, tell it to vibrate the phone. Okay, there's no vibrate on the Mac, so, okay, different things, but when you try to run that shortcut on the Mac, it falls over. I think that's an avoidable shame. You think it would be easy enough for Apple to have an option that says, well, if it's an iPhone, vibrate, and if it's a Mac, bleep. But yeah, no, you can work around it, but broadly no. And there are other things that everything says should work across all three devices, and yet they do not. And that makes me pull out hairs from anybody passing by. Just come. But then there's this specific thing. I could record into that planner shortcut on my iPhone, and I could not on either the Mac or the iPad, despite there being no reason whatsoever that I shouldn't be able to. The action is there, the shortcut supports recording, all of it's there, but on the Mac and the iPad, the whole thing kept falling over. When it got to the transcription part, it kept saying error message, like, I was interrupted. Well, it was not interrupted, I was standing there watching it. Even on the iPhone, though, where it did work, iPhones go to sleep, don't they, when you're not using them? So as I would talk away for an hour about whatever it was, I'd have to keep gently stroking the screen to convince it
to convince the iPhone that I was still using it. Stroke but not swipe, because if it ever turned into a little swipe, the recording would stop. It wasn't worth the trouble, was it? So now what I do is I break out voice memos and record, whenever I want to record something, record it into that, think aloud about it, save the file, and then share it into the new Planner shortcut. But let me please show you something totally different example that works and that I use a lot, especially when I'm writing on my iPad and what I'm writing is an article that's due to go online.
Let's go back into drafts, was a thing I prepared earlier. An exciting list. Shopping list. I think I was doing, you say potato, I say tomato, but let's just select everything here and now copy it. If I come out of here, tap in my doc, HTML list, we wait for a bit, done. Go back into this. Just a few returns so you can see the difference. That has created a HTML formatted, a compact HTML format list. They can go straight on the website. I write a lot of articles that need a list like that, and now I have it as a button to do it. And more than having it as a button, I have it there. So if actually, while I'm working away, I can still just scroll up, there's the button, tap it and off it goes, and I have a few others to do various other things. So even though the shortcut is still in shortcuts, I have this available here, and let me show you how. Let's go back into shortcuts and back into the one we just created, and I did call it Planner 1 for some reason. Go into that, add to home screen, and change the color. What do you think of for a plan? Does it give anything? I have not one thin clue what to pick, so let's go for that. Okay, it didn't seem to like that. Yeah, money, whatever. All right, and now, there it is. I can move that around, and I can pop it, into a folder for it so that it's always available. I mean, let me show you just that for completeness. You can't drag that into the folder, but what you can do, and let me get this out of the way, Duolingo being it, if I pull that folder out, I can now drag that into there, go that folder back into the dock, tap done, and now whatever I'm doing, there are all of these. I'm going to feel very silly having a $sign there, so I'm just going to delete that for now. It doesn't affect the fact that the Planner or Planner 1 for some reason is there.
So that's a couple of shortcuts that I use a lot, which use Apple Intelligence. However, right inside the Shortcuts app, there is a gallery of all sorts actually of shortcuts that other people have made and shared. And right now, with the new Apple Intelligence feature that Apple is trying to push and promote, Apple itself has added a few.
But back to the gallery, here are a few others. What could this possibly be? Turn your copy into a haiku. Action items from meeting notes could be useful. Leftover recipes, the idea there is that you will just type in, I've still got a tomato left, what can I do? And it'll search, probably ChatGPT, to come back and say, you could make tomato ketchup.
I will say it again. Shortcuts on the Mac, the iPhone and the iPad are a huge boon for writers, and yet that boon has boomed. Does that work? Because of the addition of Apple Intelligence. I went a bit high pitched there. I thought, okay, shortcuts, Apple Intelligence, actions, really useful. That's it for this edition of 58 Keys. I could have just said that. Shortcuts, actions, useful. Thanks for watching. Now take care of yourself. Write more, not just, shortcuts. I mean actual, proper writing. And I'll see you soon.